And welcome to the Debrief on ABC News Live. I'm Kimberly Brooks. Thanks so much for joining us. Labor Day is approaching, and so is Hurricane Dorian. We have the latest on the storm track, plus we see how the White House is responding. And we kicked off this holiday weekend in Central Park for the last Good Morning America concert for the summer. But first, here are your headlines.
The backlash is growing over the British Prime Minister's plan to suspend Parliament with a Brexit deadline looming.
In a nutshell, the unelected head of state, the Queen, has signed off on the unelected head of government, Boris Johnson, suspending the elected House of Commons from having a meaningful say on what may turn out to be a UK no-deal exit from the EU.
The FTC is now reportedly launching an investigation into the marketing practices of e-cigarette maker Juul. The investigation will reportedly focus in part on possible marketing toward kids.
Amazon now has its hands on part of a sports network. Disney, the parent company of ABC News, has sold its share of the Yes Network, which carries New York Yankees games. Amazon is part of a group of companies buying up the stake.
Close call for a little girl at her bus stop. Her mother watched as a car blew through the stop sign, nearly hitting the girl.
The bus's arm swinging out to signal stop to oncoming traffic. But then this terrifying moment.
No, wait! Stop!
A car appearing to blow right past that sign seconds before that little girl tried to cross the road.
If she would have taken one more step, my daughter's life would have been over.
A 2018 survey of school bus drivers in 38 states and Washington, D.C. found that nearly 84,000 vehicles passed their buses illegally on a single day.
15-year-old Coco Gauff has made it to the third round of her first U.S. Open. It took her nearly 2.5 hours to win last night's 3-set battle. Up next, a marquee matchup with Naomi Osaka.
Oh, that's going to be a good one.
We begin with Hurricane Dorian, the storm bypassing the Caribbean, allowing Puerto Rico to exhale, but now gaining strength out in the Atlantic and could become a Category 4 storm as it makes its way to Florida, the state on high alert. So we have full hurricane coverage, and I want to go to ABC News senior meteorologist Rob Marciano right there on the ground in Melbourne, Florida. Rob, good to see you. Can you just give us an idea of what's happening there right now?
Well, we've got a couple of days to wait for this, at least, Kimberly. As you can see, the sun is shining. It's just like any other day here in Florida in the middle or end of August, becoming warm and humid. There'll be a couple of pop-up showers, but the surf behind me is pretty tame compared to what we expect to see in the coming days. And around the area, the folks here, they're a little bit amped up, a little bit worried. They're a little frustrated, quite honestly, about the lack of confidence that we have in the forecast later in the forecast period and how it's been changing. And we are, too, in the meteorological community. But that's changing. We're getting a little bit more confident in the forecast. The east side of the state is different from the Gulf side in that we have these protective dunes that do a pretty good job of protecting any sort of storm surge at, say, less than 15 feet, but a Category 4 or 5 could bring more than that. And there's certainly not dunes like this up and down the coastline. So storm surge is going to be an issue for sure. We've seen people clearing out shelves in the stores here, preparing for the worst as far as food and water is concerned. They're trimming some trees because these pom-poms are going to be flying. Even if they don't take a direct hit, it's going to be long-duration sustained winds that could do some damage here. So we're getting ready, but I think that over the weekend here is really when things will be getting ramped up, and there might very well be some announcements later on today or tomorrow from officials to determine who should evacuate and take precautions.
Yeah, yes, and Rob, you've covered a lot of hurricanes. What concerns you the most about this particular storm, say, compared to Hurricane Irma?
Well, I mean, the lack of confidence in the forecast, for one thing. It's a pretty small storm, which are notoriously difficult to forecast. They can explode in intensity quite rapidly, and they can be a little bit more wavering of the course. So it's a complicated forecast when you see a storm that's going to make a left turn, as this one is expected to do. It all depends on what happens with the ridge of high pressure that we think is going to determine its path. So I'm worried about just how strong it's going to get, obviously where it lands. But now we think it could be slowing down significantly as it approaches the coastline. So now you have the additional potential threat of, one, not knowing exactly where it's going to make landfall, and two, having it linger over this entire state for days as it drifts up towards the north. And that'll also bring in more communities, more states, quite frankly. Georgia and the Carolinas will be brought into play here in the coming days. So there's a lot of question marks with this storm, which is probably my biggest concern. I think the people here are, they're certainly hurricane savvy. I mean, let's face it, they've had a number of hurricanes. We just had Michael last year, Category 5. That was on the other side of the state. But they had Andrew here in 1992. And if this storm is to come ashore as forecast, as a Category 4 storm, it would be the strongest storm to hit the east side of this state in almost 30 years since Hurricane Andrew. So it's likely to be a historic event, but still a lot of question marks.
The big key ingredients of strengthening for hurricanes, 85 to 90 degree water temperatures along this path. So you could see it could become a Category 3 as early as today, a Category 4 by the weekend as it approaches Florida. So I want to show you the timing now. This is the latest track from the National Hurricane Center as of 11 o'clock, and we're seeing it slowing down. So take a look. Saturday evening, 130-mile-per-hour wind. So already a Category 4 by tomorrow night. It continues on with that strength, remaining a Category 4 Sunday into Monday. You can see that turn now, making pretty much a westward turn. So it's moving from northwest and it'll turn a little bit to the west. And that's why the track keeps shifting a little bit further south. So now we're seeing a potential landfall somewhere near West Palm Beach. And we could continue to watch this track shifting a little further south as the days go on. So we really need to watch where the storms takes place and where we think the landfall is going to be. But look at the timing. Another huge difference in just the last 24 hours with the forecast models is how much it's slowing down. So Sunday, 8 a.m. So that's Sunday morning, 140-mile-per-hour winds. So there could be additional strengthening just ahead of landfall as it gets to those very warm waters right off the east coast of Florida. And then it approaches just north of West Palm Beach, possibly Monday night into Tuesday morning now. So almost 24 hours later than we originally thought. And we could look for that to keep shifting over the next couple of days. It makes landfall somewhere around West Palm Beach by Tuesday morning. And then we're trying to see when it makes that left turn, when it moves up the state. Does it move up to the center of the state, the eastern coast of the state, even potentially the Gulf coast of the state? So that's one of the biggest questions along this track, is when it makes that turn and moves northward. So if it's over the land, we're going to see it weaken a lot from a Category 3 to a Category 1 if it stays over the central part of the state. So a lot of questions with this forecast, but one of the biggest concerns I have is how slow it's going to be moving. That leaves more time for potential serious impacts and a multi-day event to hit Florida, Kimberly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So the storm moving slow equates to it being a stronger storm?
That's right. So the storm is going to continue to move slow, and we have a couple of steering currents that are going to impact it. So let me show you what's exactly going on here. Because of this high pressure there, it's a Bermuda High in the Atlantic Ocean, and there's also a low pressure to the south of Dorian. Those two currents are actually going to be steering it towards the direction of Florida. They're going to be making a turn from north to even that westward turn. So you can see that blocking high is the blocking ridge, what's going to be pushing that track a little bit further south. So that's one of these things that is going to be steering Dorian. It's going to be moving at a steady pace across the Atlantic through the northern and central Bahamas, but then this is when it slows down, and this is why I'm concerned. There could be time for additional strengthening, and there also could be a multi-day event with high impact event of a Category 4 or even Category 3 hurricane moving across parts of Florida. The steering currents collapse. The high pressure that was steering it west is going to actually erode, and that is going to be what slows it down. There's going to be no steering current to make it keep moving. That's also going to be what's going to make it turn that left turn. The big problem is there's a lot of model deviation of when this turn happens. So we could be seeing impacts anywhere from each of the coasts of Florida. And it's also a matter of timing. When does it make that turn north? So this is why we're looking at, something like Hurricane Irma back in 2017. That's when we thought it was going to go up the east coast. It ended up going up the west coast. So that's why we really have to, stay tuned on the forecast and stay tuned on the forecast changes. We have a couple of days to talk about this now. Doesn't look like it's going to hit until Monday night into Tuesday. So several days to prepare. So I think the entire state of Florida needs to be on alert as these spaghetti models change, as the models come into better agreement on the track and, of course, the timing and what parts of Florida will be impacted.
Absolutely. I was in Miami during Hurricane Irma, and when that change in the path happened, it just threw everyone off in terms of evacuations and everything. So your updates are very, very important. Thank you so much, Mel. We appreciate it. And guys, of course, with a few days from landfall, the key thing here is preparation and making sure your house is stocked and ready to go. So the Florida governor was urging residents to prepare themselves for this storm. So take a listen to what he had to say.
Floridians need to be prepared. The bad news of the storm going slower is that could potentially have some negative impacts once it reaches landfall. But you do have time before it reaches to prepare if you have not done so. And so we urge all Floridians to have 7 days worth of food, medicine, and water. This is potentially a multi-day event where it will churn slowly across the state.
Yeah, so many people are preparing to evacuate if needed and filling up their gas tanks. So Gio Benitez is on the ground in Miami with the latest there. Gio?
Hey there, Kim. We are seeing some very long lines across South Florida. We've been here all morning long, and we are seeing some of these lines, they extend outside onto the street. We've got a very jam-packed gas station over there as well. People are coming in, they're bringing in those containers to load it up with gas. So they're loading up their cars and these containers. That's why gas is going so quickly. In fact, over there, that marathon across the street, that one actually didn't have gas all morning long, and we think they just ended up refueling there. So gas, obviously a hot commodity right now, even though we are days away, because people are preparing for this storm. We're talking about a potential Category 4 storm making landfall somewhere on the eastern coast of Florida. That hasn't happened since Hurricane Andrew in 1992. The people who lived here then do not want to go through that again. So much change when we're talking about building codes here. And so now they are getting ready for that. But listen, it is a rainy day. We have been seeing downpours coming down here in South Florida. That's going to make preparing for a storm that much harder, and it's tough enough. And so they actually are getting this plywood, and they're trying to put it all on their windows. They're trying to protect their homes from those damaging winds. And the plywood has been running out at some of these stores too. So a lot of people are concerned about this here. No doubt we will be here all through this weekend to make sure that people are prepared and know that they should be preparing right now, because that is the message from officials. Kim?
All right, Gio, thank you. Yes, there's still a little bit of time. And another serious concern is the life-threatening storm surge. So FEMA put out videos from Hurricane Michael reminding residents about the dangers of storm surge. And I want to bring in Kaylee Hartung, who's in Jacksonville, Florida, which experienced these serious storm surges in the past. So Kaylee, thanks for being with us. Can you just remind us of why the storm surge is such a danger in Jacksonville?
Absolutely, Kimberly. And we too just experienced a bit of a downpour unrelated to Dorian, but everyone here recognizes they need to prepare. The mayor here saying this is not a time to panic, but a time to prepare. You know, Rob mentioned the dunes along the east coast of Florida, just like these. Here on Jacksonville Beach, they really feel like these can protect them from the storm. This hotel, many people saying they will ride out the storm here because they have this dune protection. But the difference here is the St. Johns River. It runs in between Jacksonville Beach, where we are, and the city of Jacksonville. The city of Jacksonville was built on wetlands. So people there know it doesn't take a hurricane, it doesn't take serious storm surge to flood the area. But hurricane conditions make the area that much more at risk, because when storm surge takes ocean water and pushes it up on shore, what it does with the St. Johns River, it pushes that ocean water up the river, could go miles upstream, and then it's trapped and has nowhere to go. It almost becoming a dam of sorts in that river until low tide comes. So if you remember, in Hurricane Irma, the city of Jacksonville, the downtown streets were flooded. I was here. We saw water coming over every embankment down on that area of downtown, where they otherwise have a beautiful view here of the island that is Jacksonville Beach. But that river water coming into downtown and flooding those downtown streets, that's where the greatest concern for storm surge is in Jacksonville. Again, the mayor here saying this is not a time to panic, it's a time to prepare.
Yeah, Kaylee, and how are people preparing? They've been through this before. What are they doing now?
Well, you know, you heard Rob mention the frustration that many people where he is down in Melbourne are feeling. Here, there's a different sense. There's some optimism that they could be spared, but again, caution because Hurricane Irma's eye was 70 miles from here, and yet the mayor here referred to it as the storm of the century because of that damage that the storm surge did. So you're not yet seeing anybody board anything up. That's happening, much farther south now, like where Gio is in Miami Beach. Here, sandbagging, though, has begun. And at the beach, this hotel saying 94 rooms have canceled their reservations for this, what would otherwise be a very busy Labor Day weekend. We're hearing again that optimism that maybe folks here could enjoy most of this weekend before they really need to batten down and prepare for what's headed this way. But right now, there is that sense that we all need to be watching these models and pay close attention to this storm that right now has a lot of questions.
All right, Kaylee right there in Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you so much for the updates. So Gio was down south, Kaylee was in Jacksonville, and now I want to go to Megan Tavrisian, who's on the ground further north in the state in Daytona. Megan, if you can just give us an idea of what's happening there. Daytona, a big tourist town.
Yes, it is, Kimberly. Nice to talk to you. So we arrived here yesterday. We drove here from Orlando. As Gio was talking about, when we went to stores, we saw a lot of people grabbing water. We ourselves were grabbing water and supplies. Yesterday, where we were, this had chairs and tables, and this was a full-functioning restaurant. And over to my right, where there's a pool, there was lawn chairs. Today, it's different. The restaurant is closed. The lawn chairs are put away because this hotel that we're staying at is now boarding up in case this storm hits. With that said, when we're looking up and down the coast, we can actually see beachgoers. There's some people behind me that are enjoying the water. So it's not like Daytona Beach is completely without tourists right now, but it does seem like it's dwindling a little bit. I was talking to people inside the hotel lobby this morning and asking them, they were two Floridians who were kind of driving through and asking them if this storm is going to change any of their weekend plans because it is a Labor Day weekend coming up, and they said they're kind of playing it by ear. They do have an event that they're going to. It hasn't been canceled yet, but they're on standby. And that seems to be the case here in Daytona Beach. A lot of events and farmers markets, and there's this Island Rum Festival that's happening in town this weekend. A lot of them are either canceled or postponed or tentatively going to potentially be rescheduled based on what happens with the weather here.
Yeah, so not quite a ghost town, but definitely not as many people as normal.
Exactly. And then this is also affecting travel plans. Like, for example, Amtrak now is limiting some of their travel here. There's going to be travel waivers of major airlines at the big airports here as well. So even though, the fuel to get places, there's long lines. So it is impacting tourism, definitely, especially on a weekend, Labor Day weekend, where a lot of people do want to come to the beach. It's not like this beach is jam-packed, but it's also not a ghost town just yet.
All right, Megan Tavrisian right there in Daytona Beach, Florida. Thank you for the updates. And as she said, guys, of course, a hurricane this strong will no doubt impact travel, not only on the highway with people potentially evacuating and increasing the traffic, but also at the airport on an already busy holiday weekend. So Steve Osunsami is at Atlanta International with some frustrated travelers. Steve?
It is a busy morning of holiday travel here at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. We are not seeing any flight cancellations yet due to the coming storm, but I can guarantee you that will change. 6 airlines are now offering travel waivers: Southwest, Delta, American, Spirit, JetBlue, and United. And for flights in and out of the Caribbean and now Florida, the Florida list is getting especially long. Nearly every major airport on the east coast of Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Melbourne, West Palm Beach, Jacksonville, are all offering travel waivers for flights in and out of those cities starting tomorrow. Florida's 3 largest airports are preparing for high winds. In Miami, they're asking airlines to tie down large pieces of equipment or remove them from the airfield. 17 cruise ships have now rerouted their schedule to avoid the storm, impacting tens of thousands of travelers. Steve Osunsami, ABC News, Atlanta.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Yes, the storm has ripple effects. And in Washington, President Trump has canceled his trip to Poland to monitor the storm, and he sent Vice President Mike Pence in his place. So the president talked about preparations already underway. So take a listen right now.
We're ready. We have the best people in the world ready, and they're going to help you. We're shipping food. We're shipping water. But it may be that you're going to evacuate. We're going to see what happens. We're waiting. it does seem almost certain that it's hitting dead center, and that's not good. The winds seem to be building at a tremendous rate. It looks like the winds are going to be unbelievably high. We're all ready, and hopefully we'll get lucky, but it looks to me like this time it's heading in one direction. All indications are it's going to hit very hard.
So I want to bring in Jordan Phelps at the White House. Jordan, good to see you. What is the federal government doing to help with this storm?
Yeah, Kimberly, President Trump says it's most important for him to be here as they make those preparations. So instead of going to Poland, where the vice president's now going, he's going to head to Camp David later this afternoon, and he's going to hunker down there and monitor the storm's approach. He's kind of used Camp David in this way in past storms to monitor approaching hurricanes, and it seems that's what he's doing here again. And of course, Kimberly, we have FEMA and these other government agencies who are getting ready for this storm.
Yeah, and before we go, I just wanted to ask you something that's sort of unrelated, but there was a new Inspector General report from yesterday about James Comey.
Yeah, that's right, Kimberly. They put out this new Inspector General report saying that James Comey, the former FBI director, had violated FBI and DOJ policies with his handling of those memos in which he closely documented some of his interactions with President Trump. This IG report damning for Comey in some ways in that it says he did break those policies, and they say he set a dangerous precedent. But in another way, Kimberly, it's been vindicating for Comey because it didn't demonstrate that he has lied about this anywhere along the way. And the key thing here is it did not find that he leaked classified information. You'll recall President Trump for months has been accusing Comey of having leaked classified information. The IG report didn't find any evidence of that, and so the department decided not to prosecute him. But Kimberly, this morning, the president is putting some spin on that report. He says, of course, that this report was disastrous for Comey, but he also says in a tweet that it was the fact that he was not prosecuted shows just how fair and reasonable Attorney General Bill Barr is. It also, of course, Kimberly, shows that they didn't find that evidence that he leaked classified information as the president had accused him of doing.
All right, Jordan Phelps at the White House. Lots going on in this administration. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And guys, before we go, I was up super early this morning for the very last Good Morning America concert in this series. I know I'm sad too, but I had too much fun with country superstar Kane Brown and Marshmello. It was a good interview, but let's just say Kane did most of the talking. So take a look.
If we were all a band, okay, we got the Marshmellos, we got Kane Brown, we got a little bit of chocolate, it would be called S'mores. Right, there you go. It would be called S'mores. Okay, so let's just do the chorus to your collaboration.
Okay.
You kick it off.
Zapping, right?
Yep, we're ready.
Zapping at the wrong place at the wrong time, chasing all the wrong things most of my life, and every kind of loss that you can't find. But I got one thing right, been the kind of guy girls mamas don't like, running with the wrong crowd on the wrong nights. I've been wrong about 1,000,000 times, but I got one thing right.
All right, so it was a super fun interview. And the other thing that was awesome is that Kane Brown is actually expecting a baby girl. So Good Morning America, we had a little bit of a gift for him, a nice little GMA onesie. And also we had a gift for Marshmello because he had recently put on Twitter that he wanted people to Photoshop in marshmallows in a picture with him. And so we made one for him, and he loved it. At least it seemed like he did. I couldn't really talk to him. So anyway, guys, continue to take care of yourselves. It's the weekend. And if you're around, you can stick around for the briefing room at 3:30 p.m. Then you can check out World News Prime at 8 p.m. And if you want to stay updated on all of these headlines, especially the hurricane coverage, you can go to abcnews.com or download the app. I'm Kimberly Brooks, and I'll see you next week.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.